I hold in my own hands.
Hi, welcome to CMVG's review of Metro Last Light. I'm here with our reviewer, Matt Pellett. How you doing, Matt?
Hello, I'm pretty good, and you?
Yeah, good, thank you. So let's talk Metro Last Light, Matt. You loved the first game. You really loved the first game, actually.
Don't get me wrong. I know it wasn't a very good shooter. It had a lot of stealth problems, but there was something about it, especially on consoles where we're not used to that type of game. It really drew me in.
It was a very sort of PC experience.
Very much so, yeah.
So with this sequel, what's changed? Have they made it less a PC experience? And what's changed in terms of the world? Where are we up to?
So this takes place a year after the events of the first game. At the end of the first game, if you got the bad ending, which is considered canon for this, you ended up nuking a race called the Dark Ones. And this picks up the tale a year later. There's still one Dark One out there in Moscow somewhere, and you have to hunt it down and kill it. Now, bit of background story. Obviously, this is post-apocalyptic Russia. You live in the metro system. You play as a guy called Artyom. The Dark Ones are sort of this alien-like race who you've got this weird connection with, but it was never really wrapped up in the first game, so it continues that mystery. What have they changed? They've made the shooting a lot better, an awful lot better. It feels like a decent shooter just on its own now. You could quite happily play through it, blasting away like you would do in a Call of Duty, and although it maybe hasn't quite got the punch of your Battlefields, it's a lot better. It can definitely hold its own.
Because in the first game, I think I remember your problem with it was that the shooting actually wasn't that great, was it?
No, I mean, it's built on this idea that, mankind was wiped out pretty much, apart from the people in the metro, and so they didn't really have all these guns down with them. They were just going about their daily business, and they found themselves living there for the rest of their lives. So they had to cobble together weapons from bits and bobs and screws and bolts and whatnot that they found underground. So the weapons are all homemade, and they're brilliantly designed. But in the first game, they just felt really weak. They felt like you weren't shooting anything that would make an impact, whereas now it's the same weapons for the most part. There are a couple of different ones, a couple of new ones, but they actually, now when you shoot it, you can see like people recoiling or dying straight away, and you couldn't say that about the first one. So it's a much better shooter. It's also a much better stealth game as well. The stealth mechanics have been refined an awful lot. There's this modal you're either seen or you're not seen system, and it's got this light gem. So as you can see on screen now, you've got a watch, and that blue light on your watch will tell you if you're visible. If it's not lit, like it's not now, then you're in the dark and you're clear. So like Splinter Cell.
Yeah, look, I was going to say it looks a bit like Splinter Cell.
When you're in danger and when you're not. So that's a lot better as well.
Yeah.
Now, I played it through on PC, and I played it through again, half of it again on 360. Now, I did encounter some gamma issues, more so on 360. Now, ironically, this footage is from the PS3 version. I didn't play it, but another guy played. On the 360, I definitely found there were some gamma issues, to the point where I had to jump in and change the gamma levels to see where I was going, and to sort of get it at the right, at the right level, because you still want it to be a gloomy game, but at points it was so dark I couldn't see what was happening.
Right. Okay.
And at other parts, when my watch was telling me I'm in darkness, I felt like I was under a spotlight.
Okay, so in the first game as well, they had these sort of hub areas where you could go in, and it was like a sort of trading post almost.
Yeah.
I mean, those presumably return?
Yeah, very much so. So the idea, the fiction, is that you've got these different stations on the metro system, much like we've got different stations in the London Underground, and now every station has been turned into a city. So this time around we visit a few new stations. There's one that's built beneath the Bolshoi Theatre. That's right, isn't it? Bolshoi, I'm sure that's what it's called.
I don't know my Russian.
And there's when you visit there, there'll be a performance, and if you want, you can sit on about 10 or 15 minutes and watch all these different routines, people singing, people dancing, people doing fire juggling acts and whatnot. There's another one called Venice, which is all flooded, so you move around the city by boat. It's very linear, to be honest, in those cities, but in fact we're watching one right now. But that's fine, because it's part of the experience, and it's a nice break from sort of the mutant hunting that goes on in the tunnels in between. I think it's a fantastic game. You know, I need to make that clear. We're seeing some surface action here. What I would say is that the first game did a brilliant job of making you feel really vulnerable up top on the surface. It was cold, it was hostile. You need your gas mask because you'll die without it. You still need your gas mask up on the surface this time around. The difference being that in the year that's passed since the first game, the sun started to come out, the weather's calmed down a bit, the ice has begun to melt. You've got swampy areas now rather than just trudging along snow. It doesn't feel quite as scary up top. It certainly doesn't feel as dangerous up top. I think the problem with the game up on the surface is that they've softened the gunplay, so you've got a fighting chance. But in doing so, they've somehow balked the filter system. So before, it was very much a game of survival. I played this through on normal, and there was no real survival element because you pick up so many filters for your gas mask that when you go up to the surface, you've got 35 to 40 minutes of breathable air, whereas before you were always on the edge. You were always 30 seconds from death thinking, crap, where's my next filter going to come from? Oh, there's a body. Oh, he's got a gas filter. Brilliant, I can survive. That didn't happen on this. Now, it'll happen if you bump it up to hard or if you play the Ranger mode. But the Ranger mode is only available in the limited edition version of the game. You don't get it as standard with the standard version. But bump it up to hard and you get that survival element, but you're probably making the combat a bit too tough for you. So there's a bit of a weird difficulty balancing that. There are a couple of boss battles as well that did feel like spikes. Don't get me wrong, for the most part it's far easier to get into than the first game, and they've done a much better job of, you know, rounding off those very rough edges, but it's still not quite right. I don't know if it's quite as open as the first game was. It feels a little bit more on rails. There were definitely a few more set pieces, but still, I mean, every other shooter out there is just a straight ride, and this one, you know what, it offers something a little bit different.